Well, welcome back to another week's look at the news. You know, in the last couple of weeks I've talked about BRICS, the new Soviet bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It seems as though BRICS now is getting involved in military things. Here's an article out of Novosti, which is the one of the official state-operated news services out of Russia. They're going to be selling, or at least they're trying to sell, ground-to-air missiles for Brazil to knock down any airplanes that may fly over Brazil to bomb Brazil. I didn't know of any problem there. I don't know who would be bombing Brazil, but there you are. But the interesting thing out of Novosti is this one. Pentagon to buy Russian helicopters despite ban. It seems as though the United States Department of Defense wants to sidestep a congressional ban and buy, 30 helicopters from Russia that are military helicopters. Isn't that nice? I guess they didn't inform the generals at the Pentagon who the enemy is. But at any rate, it'd be nice. That way they can use parts on either side of the lines in their battles and that sort of thing in any future war. Go figure. In the meantime, we're selling military equipment and aircraft and such things all over, including Egypt. Those of you who keep up on that know that we sent some of our latest aircraft fighters to Egypt, to the new democratic government of Morsi. Well, it's not so democratic anymore, is it? We see Christians and Muslims clashing within Egypt. We've talked about those things before. Now it seems as though Morsi is gone to the Sudan, which is right next door to Egypt, and proposed a unified government, that they would merge the two governments together between Sudan and Egypt. If this happened, then the Sudanese would have access, would they not, to military equipment from Egypt supplied from the United States, right? Well, one of the things that's going on in the Sudan is one of the worst genocides in the world, trying to wipe out non-Muslim populations and those dark people from the south, that sort of thing. So you'll see that in this particular case, we send equipment here and they send equipment there, and supposedly we're innocent, we wash our hands of it, but in the long run, some very strange things get done around the world as a result. And oh, by the way, it's good that there's religious freedom in places like Pakistan. This is a picture of a big crowd that is, I'm sorry, it's Bangladesh now. It used to be Pakistan. That's another story we don't need to get into today. But the Pakistan people are calling for a blasphemy law to make it illegal to blaspheme against the faith of Islam and the Quran and that sort of thing. So much for religious freedom in these new democracies that are being established all over the world with the help of the Council on Foreign Relations run organizations such as went into Egypt and that sort of thing. We talked about that about a year ago, I believe it was, how these CFR run operations went into Egypt, disguised as Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, financed by the United States government, helped overthrow the government of Egypt and establish this new Egyptian Brotherhood government in Egypt. You can go back and research the old videos and get that. Interestingly enough, too, in today's Wall Street Journal, we see an article here, "Workers Stuck in Disability Stunt Economic Recovery." Workers stuck in disability stunt economic recovery. And what they're talking about is the fact that there are so many people who aren't being employed because they're in Social Security as disabled people. And there's people even with anxiety I have an anxiety attack, so therefore I can't work, so now I'm on Social Security disability forever. And one of the interesting things that the Obama administration did was this sort of thing. Now, this is, and it started actually with the Bushes and others, so we can't blame the Democrats entirely for all this. A lot of the Republican administrations are involved. But this chart shows the upswing, the bubble in welfare recipients. See how that was going up under Bush? Well, then all of a sudden it falls off. But this shows the growth of those on Social Security disability. See how it comes up here? All these people here went here. That's basically what happened. And so these are the growing millions, nearly 7 million, at least over 6, families that are on Social Security disability forever. That's your tax money and mine. Another thing is the growing unrest in the Middle East as a result of Syria. It's slopping over into Lebanon. They formed a new government in Lebanon, and the subtitle on this is Seeking to Form a Unity Government of Technocrats. Now, most people would read that and it would kind of probably go over their heads. What does that mean? Because of the problems in the area with Syria and all the rest of it, we need a new government in Lebanon, and they're going to be technocrats. Now, technocrats basically are these. It is a socialist government run by scientists. That's basically what it is. More professional, higher level socialist. It's not those street thugs. It's people who are thinkers, you see, the people that crunch numbers and the people that have grandiose ideas of how the world should be run. And so we have a lot of engineers and that sort of thing involved in the process. That's what a technocrat is. It is not a free government. It is a socialist government run by professionals. That's basically what it means. And so in the name of Syria, all of a sudden Lebanon is getting a new socialist government. We won't call it that because these Americans might wake up to what's really going on. We'll call them technocrats. Another thing that is in the news, Chinese mogul in talks for cinemas. It seems as though these Chinese individuals now are coming over and buying out Hollywood. So now the movies will be made more and more in China, or by Chinese, with Chinese money, but with Chinese propaganda. We've seen that in a lot of movies in the theaters here recently, but it will become even more so. In addition to that, we see not just propaganda in the movies, but as I point out, the consistent, constant, full-page advertisements by the Chinese government in such things as the Wall Street Journal, half disguised as news, promoting the Chinese economy, promoting the Chinese propaganda. We used to see a lot of blatant communist propaganda in the movies in the 30s and 40s. It got so bad, that's what led to the famous Hollywood 10 and that sort of thing that they blame on McCarthy. McCarthy had nothing to do with the blacklist in Hollywood. He was a member of the Senate of the United States. The people that investigated communism within the industry in Hollywood were out of the House. It was the House Committee on Un-American Activities. And that's how you are to say it. That is the official title, the House Committee on Un-American Activities. Not the Un-American Activities Committee. Not the House Un-American Activities Committee. There's a difference. The communists switched that, so in the jargon that we use, it is the House Committee on Un-American Activities, not the House Committee on Un-American Activities. One means the House is to blame, the other is that the House is looking into un-American activities. Subtle, but there you have it. And by the way, those poor people never were blacklisted. They just used different names in Hollywood. They continued writing and everything else. It was the people who became ostracized were the individuals that testified against them. The individuals who quit the Communist Party came forward and identified other communists in Hollywood. Their careers were destroyed, with one or two exceptions, but even so. One other thing, I think I'll just leave it at this. It's an article in the New York Times that appeared this last week about how Mexican villages have lost as much as 40% of their population moving into the United States. And it points out that some of the individuals who are concerned about this new amnesty program are concerned because the amnesty program under Ronald Reagan led to this flood of individuals coming across the border. As everybody knew, as the John Birch Society tried to point out at the time, few enough people listened. But they better listen this time, because if they have another amnesty program, it won't be 40%, it might be 60, 80%. And why not? If I was living in Mexico, that's what I would do, maybe. But then, of course, I believe in being honest. So there are times when things make you do, situations make you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And a lot of Mexicans are doing those things, but that doesn't make it right. Until next week, we'll see you then.